Hey witches, welcome back to my channel. So I've got this video I want to make, and like in my first video I made, I don't want to start a negative debate, but I would like your opinions about this with constructive criticism. I don't want anybody to bash anyone. This isn't about, getting politicians involved, but it's something very Bible that I want to discuss. And it's something I've been struggling with since the last election, when Obama took office. There's a lot going on right now in the world of politics, which I know. We've got Mitt Romney running for president, and Obama's running for re-election, and everybody's mudslinging, and people are getting fired up about this election. But I'm really struggling with the idea of whether or not to vote this year, and I'll tell you why. I've always thought or believed that, from the most part, we are a spiritual society, in my opinion. And what I mean by that is that we came from Source. We came from the God and Goddess. I believe there was a holy union that took place there. I believe that's why there is a man and a woman, a yin and a yang, a light and a dark, a masculine and a feminine. I believe there's a balance that needs to be kept within nature, and that's what led me to being a pagan or an eclectic witch. And it's really getting to the point to where I'm starting to spiritually question my views about voting or not. On one hand, I wonder if it's my patriotic duty to vote, and instead of complaining about the problems in the world, they say if you don't vote, then don't complain. Well, I'm to the point now where I'm really wondering if my vote would even count, because, even if you go out and vote, at the end of the day, Congress is the one that has the right to say whether or not a bill gets passed. All the president can do is present it. So really, I think that we should be having elections for the House of Congress the way we have elections for president. But spiritually, I'm starting to wonder if it even matters. I've always looked at this world with a very strange perspective, and if you don't agree with this, I totally understand. This is just my perspective. But what if, and this is just a what if there was no such thing as the need for money? Now, just stay with me here. On a spiritual level, on even a religious level, we all know that we have to work to make a living. We have to work to make that green stuff, paper. In society, you're defined by how much you have. That's just the way it is. There's the haves and the have-nots. There's the rich and the poor. There really is no middle class anymore, in my opinion. It's gotten to the point to where either you have money and you're doing well, or you're flat broke and you don't have a job. So, what I'm thinking is what if there was a collective movement globally where people just said, okay, you know what? We're going to run these machines. We're going to run this world. We're going to continue to provide and produce goods. But what if people did it solely out of just spiritual responsibility, not for money? Food manufacturing companies, car manufacturing companies, corporations, all these things that run on money. The deficit is at an all-time high. Obama's done what he can, in my opinion, to try to help with that, but we're still practically bankrupt. If you look at other countries around the world, they're having issues as well. So what if there was just a spiritual collective of people who woke up one day and said, you know what, this isn't about money, this is about a moral obligation to take care of our brothers and sisters, globally. Whether you're black, white, gay, straight, thin, fat, boy, girl, whatever your religious background may be, what if that changed? And all of a sudden people just woke up and said, we have a spiritual, moral obligation to make sure that every child gets fed, that everyone has a place to live, that everyone has a car to drive, that everyone has clean air, and take away the currency. Because I think what happened is, back through history, when it was barter and trade, if you had food and you needed shelter or clothing, you bartered, you traded. There was no such thing as money. There was no such thing as, well, you've got to work, and this is how much you're going to make an hour, and this is going to dictate what you can afford, and we're going to take taxes out on top of that, so whatever you work for, here's, half of that. If you're lucky to get that much, now go out and try to live. What if we kept the machines of the world running on a free basis to where everybody was prospering and everybody was providing for everybody solely out of the moral and spiritual need to do so. I know that's a long shot in hell. I know that's just totally probably off the wall to some of you people. I don't know if that's you know, that's a fantasy, obviously. I know that would never happen. But I'm just getting to the point to where I don't even see the point in voting anymore. I'm looking at things from a very spiritual perspective. I don't think it's going to matter much which way you go with it, especially if you're someone that practices an alternative religion, such as Wiccan or Paganism or Druidism or Celtic, whatever the case may be. I just don't look at it as, okay, I'm going to vote for Obama just to keep Mitt Romney out of office. I'm going to vote for the lesser of two evils. Or, I don't agree with either, so I'm just going to vote independent. No, my candidate's not going to get in the House, but, you know, at least I'm doing my part. I think I have a spiritual obligation in society to do my part as a pagan by helping people. Just last night, me, my mom, and her boyfriend had went to the dollar store to get some snacks for movie night. There was a lady right beside of us who had a hunchback. She was hunched over, looked like she probably had scoliosis as well. She was loading her groceries into the car by herself. She's having a very hard time doing this. And I just looked at my mom and I said, does this lady need help? You know, that's where being a good citizen comes from. That's where being a moral, spiritual part of society comes from. You look at something, you see that it needs to be helped, and you don't do it for money, and you don't do it for gain. You do it because it's the right thing to do. And I just don't see the point in having a politician or a dogmatic religion telling us, or in some cases scaring us to death, into being a good person. And this whole idea that you have to vote for a person to make your life better is just crazy, because they're human too. They are as human as we are. They bleed red just like we do. They're as educated or as uneducated as the rest of us. It doesn't matter if they've got a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a PhD or whatever the case may be. We're all human, and we all make mistakes, and we all make, you know, our way in the world the best we know how. So I just don't know if I'm finding it necessary anymore to put all my hope and faith on the shoulders of one man to run an entire country and it do anything for us as a whole. It might benefit some people, the ones that have money. It might benefit some people who are lower middle class, you know, make a three-figure income a year, $150,000 a year, versus people that are making millions a year. But if we all just took a minute to really realize that, hey, we all need food, we all need shelter, we all need transportation, we all need this, and did it in a manner that was not based on, hey, I think people would even do a better job at what they're doing. You know, people get beat down. When you work in a factory, or if you work in manufacturing at all, that's a hard, physically laboring job. And when you look at that paycheck at the end of the week, or every 2 weeks, however you get paid, and you see that it's just, we'll say, for instance, you might make $8.50 an hour working on an assembly line. You're busting your butt just to make ends meet. You probably don't have health insurance. You probably don't have great benefits. And your vacation time is very little. And in a lot of places in this area where I'm from, your vacation time is really dictated by the company that you work for. So they're going to come to work, and they're probably, in a lot of cases, and this is just my opinion, going to do a really piss-poor job of what they're doing. And then you have these mass recalls of all these vehicles or food that's been contaminated or built the wrong way, not because people didn't care, but because they just get so fed up with working, and not making enough that it's no longer about the quality of the product. It's no longer about the quality of work. It's about the quantity of money. I just think we need to get spirit back into society. We need to get back to a place to where it's not about what you make, it's about taking care of your fellow brothers and sisters. Now, I don't think you necessarily have to be pagan or Wiccan to do that. But unfortunately, in this society, we are not all pagan, we're not all Wiccan, and I'm not saying that pagan and Wiccans are the only ones who feel this way. I'm sure there's probably a lot of other spiritual or religious people that are possibly Christian that might have some of the same views. But I just think that it's getting to a point where people as a whole are just putting way too much stock in how much they're getting paid. They're putting way too much stock in how big their house is. how fancy their cars are, how much they can attain, when really it should be about being comfortable, surviving, enjoying life, and taking care of your brothers and your sisters as you would yourself. You know, even the Christians believe it's just love thy neighbor the same way that you love God and Jesus. You know, in their religion, they believe that you need to love your neighbor as you love yourself, and we just don't have that much anymore. You don't see that a lot of times. I mean, you turn on the news, and what do you hear about? You know, 90% of the time it's murders and shootings and robberies and drug busts, and unfortunately around here in the state of Tennessee, we've had 5 children die this summer from being left in a car that overheated. I mean, you hear terrible, terrible stories. You so often hear of good Samaritans doing the right thing, and they're out there. Believe me, there's all kinds of good people out there that are willing to put out time and effort and their money to help others. But I just think until we can get back to a spiritual way of being, until we can get back to a place where we look at Mother Nature and realize this is our home, this is our facilitator, she gives us life, she gives us the air that we breathe, and that our Father God is also a co-creator in us being here, and He gives us warmth and light and heat. Until we can realize that the very air that we breathe is not manufactured and is not based on money, we're never going to take into account that what we're doing to the planet is bad. I'm just really, and it brings me back to what I was saying, I just really don't know if putting all my hope and faith on one person's shoulders, the president, is going to make that much of a difference. I think we all need to, as a whole, as a collective whole, get back to square one. And that is take care of the earth, nurture one another, look at what's important. You know, people are starving right now, and not just in third world countries, but in our own country, in America. There are tens of thousands of children and women and men who have nothing to eat, nowhere to live. And we just pass them by like, oh, well, you know, I'm going to get mugged, robbed, or raped if I help this person. And it's really gotten to that point. We're so terrified that we can't even help someone. It's like last night when I saw that lady loading her groceries into her car, and I wanted to help her, and my mom was like, no, she's probably used to that. You might embarrass her. And I thought, have we really gotten that shut off as a society? That I would be embarrassing an elderly woman with a bad back if I helped her load her heavy groceries into her car? To me, that's just the right thing to do. You see a problem and you go out and you help. You don't put all your faith into one person. You don't put all your stock in your happiness and how much you're making. I just think things are really backwards. And it's just time to get back to square one. You guys have a great day and blessed be.